My name is Arthur, and for the past 10 years, my life has been defined by the silent, shifting dust of the old Crestwood Quarry, or what used to be the quarry. Now it's just a vast, fenced-off pit, its machinery long since gone, leased out as a dumping ground for construction rubble. My job? Night watchman. Keep an eye on the perimeter, make sure no one's trying to pilfer the scrap metal or, more likely, dump something they shouldn't. It's quiet work, mostly. Too quiet, sometimes. The old guard shack, a rusting metal box with a single flickering fluorescent bulb, is my sanctuary. Nights are long, punctuated only by the distant hoot of an owl or the occasional gust of wind. Until a few weeks ago, that is. That's when the howling started. It wasn't a dog, not a coyote, not anything I'd ever heard. It was a high, keening sound, almost like something wounded, but with an underlying growl that vibrated in my chest even through the thick glass of the shack. It seemed to come from the deepest part of the pit, where the shadows clung like oil. At first, I dismissed it, just my mind playing tricks in the isolation. I told myself, maybe a fox caught in a snare, but the howling came back, night after night, always from the same spot, always just after midnight, and it was getting closer. One night, I saw something move, a flicker of movement at the edge of the pit, too large for any animal I knew. I blamed exhaustion, the coffee jitters, anything but what my gut was screaming at me. Then came the tracks. Deep, uneven indentations in the soft gravel of the quarry road, unlike anything I'd ever seen. Not paw prints, more like clumsy hands, or distorted feet with too many digits. They snaked from the perimeter fence, across the access road, and disappeared into the brush. I radioed it in, of course. Animal trouble, I said, trying to keep my voice even. My supervisor, the gruff man named Harris, just grunted. Probably kids. Just keep an eye out. He didn't care. No one ever cared about the old quarry. It was just a place for me to disappear into the night. But the tracks were real, and they were getting more frequent, appearing closer and closer to my guard shack. Sometimes, I'd swear I could smell something. A faint, musky odor, like wet earth and something else, something rotten. Last night, it changed. The howling didn't come from the pit. It came from the scrubland behind my shack. Then, silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I sat rigid, my hand hovering over the ancient two-way radio, useless. I couldn't call for animal trouble again, not when the sound had been so deliberate. I peered through the grime-streaked window, my heart hammering against my ribs. Nothing. Just the vast, empty expanse of the quarry, bathed in the sickly green glow of the perimeter lights. I told myself it was just a deer caught by a bobcat, but the smell of decay was stronger now, seeping into the shack, making my stomach churn. I started leaving the main light on, the one over the door, a small comfort, but it was something. Tonight, the wind picked up. Rain began to lash against the corrugated metal of the shack. The fluorescent light flickered erratically, casting jumpy shadows that made every corner seem to breathe. I was halfway through my thermos of lukewarm coffee when I heard it. A faint scraping, not outside, not in the brush, closer, underneath the shack. My breath hitched. I slowly, carefully put down my thermos. The scraping continued, a slow, deliberate sound, like something heavy and rough being dragged across metal. It paused, then started again, closer to my side of the shack. I gripped the heavy wrench I kept under my chair, my knuckles white. The sound stopped directly beneath my feet. Then, a low, wet snuffling. I froze, every muscle screaming for me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The floorboards above me groaned under the rain and my own trembling weight. I could feel the vibrations of something massive, something alive, moving beneath me. A moment later, a shadow fell across the window. Not just the shadow of the perimeter light, but a deeper, more profound darkness. It pressed against the glass, distorting the view. I could make out something. A head? No, too irregular. A cluster of elongated shapes, like roots or bones, moving independently, yet connected. It was peering in, through the rain-streaked pane, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that it knew I was there. A loud thump jolted me. It was trying to get in. It was testing the shack like a predator circling its prey. I scrambled for the radio, fumbling with the switch. Harris, Harris, you there? Only static answered me. The creature outside let out a soft, guttural chitter, almost amused. Then, another thump, harder this time, right against the door. The metal shrieked. I could hear the rain still, but it was fading into the background, replaced by the sound of my own ragged breathing and the relentless assault on my small, fragile sanctuary. The smell was overpowering now, a suffocating stench of grave soil and something that had been dead too long. The door buckled inward with a final, splintering crash. A mass of dark, glistening limbs snaked into the shack, followed by a head that was not a head, but a collection of bulbous, unblinking eyes set into a gnarled, root-like skull. It was far too big for the space, far too wrong. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that was quickly swallowed by the creature's hungry, wet roar. I brought the wrench down, again and again, but it was like hitting hardened leather. It didn't even flinch. The last thing I saw was one of its eyes, large and black and utterly devoid of anything human, reflecting the dying flicker of the fluorescent bulb. Then, darkness. The quarry road is quiet now. Harris reported me missing. They found my thermos, the broken radio, and the mangled remains of the guard shack. They never found me, but sometimes, when the wind is just right, I hear the keening still, a sound that echoes not from the pit, but from the depths of the earth, a sound that warns anyone who listens. The quarry has a new night watchman now, and it's always hungry. Thank you for listening. If this story found you in the dark, subscribe and turn on notifications. A new tale waits every night.